Look who's with us. Ajit Pai, FCC chairman, a notable guest. So, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
Why would Time Warner have to get rid of CNN?
Well, I have to say that this is not within the FCC's jurisdiction. It's being handled by the Justice Department, and so I have confidence in the professionals over there to make the appropriate judgments.
Would you like to have a stab at a guess as to how much CNN's worth?
You know, given our limited time, I'm afraid I don't have a chance.
I knew it.
But next time, perhaps.
But thank you very much for being on the program. So. Okay. I do want to talk to you about the way the media is changing so rapidly in the digital age. Seems to me that the legacy media companies, radio stations, newspapers, for example, I think they're at a disadvantage. It's not a level playing field for them, is it? Can you change it?
I think we can, and hopefully next week we will. One of the things that is notable about the 21st century is that there's all kinds of competition that could not have been conceived when the FCC established these media ownership rules all the way back in 1975. And so the simple argument I've made is that our rules should match the marketplace in which we're in. And so if the FCC has rules on the books that don't contemplate anything like the internet, we need to update them.
You would open it up? I mean, if a radio station in Topeka, Kansas wants to buy whatever someplace else, you'd say, okay?
Absolutely. I mean, it seems to me that if a Silicon Valley giant can buy a newspaper and nobody bats an eyelash, why should an AM radio station in Topeka be prohibited from doing the same with a newspaper? And that's good for local coverage as well.
The other side of the coin, a Facebook, for example, would you just let them go at it and buy what they want?
Well, obviously, there are still going to be antitrust laws that cover these types of situations. But to me, at least, I take the position of regulatory humility. It doesn't seem to me that a government regulator should preemptively say in every single market in the United States, these potential pro-competitive combinations should be outlawed because we know what the marketplace is like now and what it always will be like. That's not something the government, I think, is well positioned to do.
Regulatory humility? From a government... No, I'm not saying you're a government guy, but you are in the government, and we're not used to that kind of talk from government people.
I understand that. I hear that a lot. But to me, at least, I look at it from the consumer's perspective. Consumers want as much news as they can get on a variety of devices from a variety of companies. And the last thing the government should do is stand in the way saying, no, we demand that the marketplace be as it was in 1975. That's simply not the way it is now in 2017.
This is so refreshing. Do you realize that?
Tell me more.
Do you know who that is? That is Mark Stein.
Of course, yes.
And he's a big fan of yours, and you're a big fan of his. What do you think about this?
I'm a big fan of that, because I think what's interesting is, as you say, we're regulating the stuff from 2 generations ago. A guy comes along, he invents Facebook, and you think, oh, that's great for lonely losers to put cat pictures on. And next thing you know, it's actually making television and distributing television.
Right.
And so to go back to the radio station in Topeka, Kansas, I mean, people are doing an end run round the regulated sphere that you have no say over. And
the other great irony is that these are particularly the outlets that are struggling. And newspapers are struggling, especially in smaller towns. Broadcast radio and TV is struggling. Oddly enough, we single them out for onerous regulation while ignoring the fact that there are cable news channels, there are online platforms, all other types of media that the FCC never thought about in 1975 because it didn't exist.
What have you got in store in the immediate future at the FCC to truly open stuff up? What's the big move that you're going to make?
2 big things. I mean, number 1, simply modernizing our regulations to match the marketplace in which we're in. And number 2, trying to promote more competition, regardless of whether it's the broadband marketplace or media. We want all companies using all technologies to have a fair chance to compete.
Yeah, because competition comes from all different sources these days. It's not a discrete linear thing. It's all over the place people are competing.
Exactly. My position is pretty simple. Technological neutrality is important. I don't care what technology is being brought to bear. We want all of them to compete for the consumer's eyeballs and wallets.
I have to ask you, when you walked in the door of the FCC and you talked about regulatory humility, what was the response?
I think a lot of people have said it's about time. Some of these rules have been on the books, and not just this one from 75, and we have a lot of rules on the books that...
Sir, with due respect, the bureaucracy that was in place at the FCC when you turned up and said something like that, I can't believe that they would approve.
No, the FCC staff has been actually tremendous. They've been helping us do the legwork, the nitty-gritty work behind the scenes to help this happen. And we've gotten rid of regulations that dated back to the FCC's telegraph division in 1936. So we're pruning, I think, the rule books of some of these rules that might have been worthwhile back in the Great Depression or beyond, but they aren't relevant today. And so we want to make sure that we have an agency that's worthy of being relevant in 2017.
Sir, you can bring back regulatory humility to this programme anytime you like, and that's a fact. Ajit Pai, thanks very much for joining us, sir.
My pleasure.
I'm afraid I also have to say goodbye to Mark Stein. I'm going to have a set full of people any moment, but Mark, thanks for joining us.
No.
Ajit, sir, thank you very much indeed.